How's it going, everyone? Hope everyone had a great weekend. And we have another kills of the week here, followed by the Orchard's Bones, chapter 23, 24, and 25 today. Yeah, so anyways, let's get to it.
Chapter 23, The Name That Remains. The chamber was still again. The breath of the well faded, retreating like a wave pulled back before a storm surge. The sword remained, untouched, unchanged, waiting. Not a weapon, an invitation. Cale stood slowly. His legs ached. His fingers twitched with memory that wasn't his. Full of voices and visions and war he'd never lived. But he knew now, this was what Aaron had hidden. This was what the Bone Wardens feared. Not the god, the act of remembering. Lyra stood beside him, silent. She hadn't tried to stop him. She wouldn't, because she knew, like he did, this wasn't just about stopping Velith. It was about choosing who the world would become once it remembered what it lost. Cale looked at the sword. Its runes shifted gently beneath his gaze, rearranging themselves, not into words, but into understanding. Every mark a scar from a different truth. The price of binding, the burden of legacy, the cost of carrying what others buried. He took a breath and spoke aloud. My name is Cale Rennan, but I carry Aaron Bay. He reached out, his hand closed around the hilt. The sword did not resist. It sank, not in music, in memory, in unburied truth. It filled him, not like the soul fruit, not like the visions. This was wholeness, a chain of thought and flesh and blood. He was not just a vessel, not just a boy. He was a line between forgetting and becoming, a light pulse from the runes. The chamber shook. Lyra stepped back. Cale. But he didn't fall. He didn't shatter. He stood taller. The sword responded, its light pouring into the veins of the well, igniting the veins in the stone, the roots above, the memory tree slumbering in the orchard far away. The world stirred. Above, in lands where the orchard's silver leaves had not yet grown, people paused. Children blinked at forgotten dreams. Old soldiers felt a sharp ache in the swords they'd buried decades ago. A name came back, not spoken aloud. Not yet, but remembered. And deep beneath the mountain, Cale whispered, I know who I am now. He turned to Lyra. We have to finish what he started. But before she could speak, the floor cracked. Stone shattered in the ring around the pedestal. And a voice rose like steam from the depths. A voice neither alive nor dead. You are too late. A figure rose from the pit. Tauren raved, ascended to the well of memory. Crowned in root and fire, eyes hollow with the god's voice burning behind him. He looked at the sword. He looked at Cale. Give it to me, he said softly, and I will let you forget everything.
I don't play,
Changing max.
nope.
Chapter 24, The Grave of Names. The well trembled. The stone cracked in a perfect circle around the dais, fracturing memory itself. From below, Tauren Rave rose slowly, armor clinking like rusted bells, steam rising from joints that had long since ceased to be mortal. His eyes glowed gold, but not with fire, with remembrance, the kind that burned worlds. In his presence, the chamber dimmed. The runes along the walls began to recoil, as if trying to forget themselves. Cale stepped back from the pedestal, the sword of A in hand, it pulsed in rhythm with his heart. Or perhaps it was his heart now. Lyra moved to the side, blades drawn. Her voice was low. Don't listen to anything he says. He speaks with Velith's tongue. Tauren touched the edge of the dais and pulled himself up with slow, deliberate effort. There was no blood on him, but everything about him bled. Grief, regret, Devotion twisted beyond recognition. He looked at Kale. You bear his memory, Torin said, voice rough with centuries. But you do not understand the burden. I'm learning, Kale replied. Torin's gaze drifted to the sword. He chose to forget. I chose to remember. Tell me, boy, which one of us truly served the world? Kale held the sword higher. You chose to feed the god. I chose to keep him alive. Torin's voice cracked. Briefly, not from anger, but pain. The moment we erased it, we created the orchard. We planted it with the bodies of heroes. We nourished it with silence. He stepped forward, not rushing, not threatening, just speaking. You are not stopping a monster. You are interrupting a cycle. The world wants Velith. It needs memory. You cannot build a future on nothing. Kale felt something inside him ache. A piece of Aaron. A memory of standing beside Torin when they were still allies. Still human. I know who you were, Kale said softly. Torin stopped. That man would have stood with me. Torin's shoulders sagged. That man died the day the world buried his name. Then he lifted his hand. The roots of the orchard burst through the chamber floor, gray and silver, writhing like serpents. They coiled around the pillars, cracking stone and memory alike. The runes flared and died. From their shadows, figures emerged, faces Kale recognized, but not from life. Mirrors, reflections. The bleached ones had followed Torin into the well. Here, in the place where memory was loudest, they no longer needed bodies. They wore familiarity instead. Lyra gasped. One of them looked like her sister, long dead. Another wore the face of Kale's mother, whom he had never known. But imagine, Torin whispered, lay down the sword. Let them go. Let yourself go. The sword in Kale's hands flared again. Not light clarity. He turned to Lyra. They'll twist everything we've seen. Everything we are. So what do we do? She asked. We show them what we remember. Kale said. Then he took a step forward and raised the sword.
Enemy UAV overhead.
Enemy silenced. Changing mags. Another kill.
Chapter 25, The Fire and the Fracture. The chamber was no longer a place. It was a memory space, alive, collapsing, bleeding truth and illusion into one molten battlefield. Pillars cracked. The dais splintered. The walls shed their runes like peeling scabs, and in their place rose faces. Too many. All wrong. Lyra, they came for the house, not with blades. With guilt. A dozen versions of her sister stepped from the roof. Some wounded, some weeping, some wearing that familiar bone-warden mask Lyra had shattered the day she fled the order. You left me, they said in unison. You left the truth. You could have burned it all down. Lyra's hands trembled on her dagger. One of the ghosts stepped forward. Her sister as she was before the exile. Stern, sharp, cruel in the way only those who believe they are righteous can be. I believed in you, the ghost said. Why didn't you stay and fix it? Lyra closed her eyes. She remembered that voice. She remembered believing it. I did stay, she whispered. I stayed until I couldn't lie anymore. Then Steel sang. She lunged. The ghost caught her blade, but it didn't matter. This wasn't about cutting flesh. This was about choice. Lyra dropped to her knee, yanked a second dagger from her boot, and drove it upward into the ghost's chest. Not physically, but into the space where belief lived. Your face won't stop me, she said. The illusion cracked, and one by one her sisters faded. Dust pulled back into the dream-stained roots that had made them. Kale and Torin. At the dais, the air screamed with pressure. Torin Ray stepped through mirrored fire, draped in echoes of war. His armor bloomed with silver vines. His sword a twisted root blade of memory hardened by faith. You hold a dead man's name, he said. Kale raised Vay's sword. Then I'll give it breath. They collided. not with brute force, with remembrance. Each clash of their blades triggered floods of memory. The orchard growing from corpses, a battlefield overrun with vines,
Setting
a
waypoint.
boy, terrified, standing before the gates of Barrowmere. The sword in Kale's hands did not slice. It unwound. It turned illusions into their swords, stripped lies back to bone. Torin swung.
Anyway, she's
Kale
knocked
parried.
on that roof.
Every strike brought the gods' voice closer. Forget him. Forget yourself. Let the story fade. But Kale did not fade. He remembered Aaron standing beside Torin. The two of them arguing, no, pleading before the last battle. We can't defeat him by feeding him, Torin. We starve him with silence. Then you'll starve the whole world. That was the fracture. That was where Torin broke. Kale dodged a sweeping arc and slashed low. The blade connected, not with flesh but with faith. Torin staggered. The gold light in his eyes flickered. You're not just carrying Babe, Torin gasped. You become the cut. Kale leveled the sword in his chest. Then let me finish it. Torin roared, but it wasn't rage. It was fear. As he charged, Kale thrust the blade forward, not into his heart, but into the memory between them. The moment of betrayal, the wound that had never healed. And for the first time, Torin stopped remembering. Vines withered. The root blade crumbled. The god's voice fell silent. Torin collapsed to his knees. The chamber dimmed. The well stilled. Lyra approached panting. Blades dripping with ghost light. Kale stood over Torin, who now looked smaller, older, mortal again. What now? She asked. Kale looked at the sword, then at the walls, where names long erased began to reappear, etched in light. Now we remember the right thing, he said. And we make sure the world does, too.
Got you. Changing max.
Enemy UAV overhead.
As always, thank you guys for watching. See you guys on Tuesday's live stream, and don't let things weigh you down.
Changing max.